Everyone thinks fondly of the 2000s era of NBA basketball, thanks to names like Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Dwayne Wade. And guys like Andrei Kirilenko and Shawn and Marion are survived by the NBA stat nerds who are enamored by their advanced impact. But you know who doesn't ever get mentioned today? Gerald Wallace. At a glance, Wallace was good, but with only one All-Star selection and one All-Defensive Team nomination, he didn't do enough to be remembered in the annals of NBA history. What if Wallace was a misunderstood player who was ahead of his time? What if his team kept him from receiving the glory he deserved? And what if Wallace was secretly one of the most underrated players in NBA history? Wallace earned the moniker Crash for his willingness to always put his body on the line. He never backed down from any driver and was always eager to take a charge. Wallace's charge drawing is unique considering how physically gifted he was. At 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, Wallace barely resembles some of the great charge drawers we see today. Brandon Pajemski, Jalen Brunson, Kyle Lowry, all of them used charges as a way to overcome their vertical limitations. But Wallace had the best of both worlds. He was an excellent shot blocking forward, often teleporting out of nowhere to send shots back to the netherrealm. Sometimes Wallace would even pull out his best LeBron James impersonation to save easy shots in transition. Like most great shot blocking forwards, Wallace is best suited as a secondary rim protector playing alongside a good defensive center. The Bobcats' rim defense stats never really fluctuated much when Wallace was on or off the floor, a telltale sign that he can't be the lone anchor for a great defense. Along with his reckless abandon, Wallace's nickname describes his presence in the passing lanes. Like an unexpected vehicle making a left turn out of a shopping plaza, Wallace had a tendency to appear in your path at the worst possible time. Ball handlers would regularly attempt routine passes, only for Wallace to swoop in for a back-breaking pick six. Wallace finished in the top 10 in steals per game every season from 2005 to 2009, including a first-place finish in 2006. Wallace's ability to create turnovers is ultra valuable because it eliminates any possibility of points being scored by the opposition. In the NBA, even the most well-contested jumper can be knocked down from time to time. Let's say the average contested mid-range jumper is a 40% shot. That's 0.8 points per possession. But if a possession ends in a steal or charge, that becomes 0.0 points per possession. Basketball is all about winning the math game, and turning a few possessions from a shot with a 40% chance of yielding points to a turnover with a 0% chance can go a long way toward winning that battle. Wallace's gift for gathering steals also speaks to his feel for the game and ability to understand defensive rotations. He was great at providing backside help from the low man spot, and also helping the helper when another teammate was tasked with that rimline responsibility. It's also worth mentioning that Wallace's foul rates were pretty tame for a guy who spent so much time seeking home run plays on defense. Now, Wallace wasn't the perfect perimeter defender. For instance, he always seemed a little flat-footed when closing out, and he also had the propensity to help off strong side shooters, although that latter attribute may have just been part of the Bobcats' defensive philosophy. Still, Wallace's size, athleticism, and off-ball contributions make me feel comfortable calling him one of the best defensive forwards of his era. To get a feel for Wallace's defensive prowess, the website Crafted NBA has a tool that takes any player season from 1978 on and compares it to all the player seasons in that time span. The two defensive seasons with the statistical profile most similar to Wallace's 2008-2009 campaign are 1990-91 Scottie Pippen and the 1991-92 iteration of Michael Jordan's iconic sidekick. The fact that Wallace can even be compared to someone of his rarefied air should tell you everything you need to know. Wallace wasn't just a one-way player. He had 3 different seasons where he averaged over 18 points per game on efficiency that was above the league average. He was never an elite finisher around the rim, but this didn't matter because he generated a ton of shots around the rim. Even an average rim finisher is creating more efficient offense than an above-average shooter from the outside, and he often turned these looks into free throw opportunities. From 2007 to 2010, Wallace finished in the 91st percentile or higher in rim and free throw attempts per 75 possessions. The key to being able to take a lot of these shots in the paint is to have a lot of avenues for getting there, and Wallace was no different in this regard. Wallace had a great motor, and he was always willing to let the engine run after his team secured defensive rebounds, leaking out for easy transition dunks and layups. Wallace could also acquire rim attempts by playing off his teammates through cuts or half-court set plays for lobs. What I love most about scouting his offense is that he also had a little bit of .5 juice before it was even in vogue. Charlotte often ran Wallace through floppy sets so that he could catch the ball on the elbow and attack his defender before he had time to get set. And since Charlotte didn't have a ton of on-ball creators, more on this a little later, Wallace sometimes had to initiate offense himself from the perimeter. It wasn't always perfect, his handle got a little loose at times, but Wallace was still able to produce good offense by stampeding downhill like a proto-Danny Avdija. Wallace wasn't just a scoring threat in these situations. When the defense collapsed, he knew how to survey the floor for laydown opportunities or more advanced passes to shooters drifting toward the opposite baseline. Now, as is the case with imperfect ball handlers, Wallace's passing vision was a bit limited. In this clip, Wallace misses Boris Diaw, who's wide open on the wing, and right here, he airmails a pass to the roll man after drawing two defenders. Unfortunately, Wallace is a below average shooter at best. He was a career 31% shooter from 3 and a 71% free throw shooter. This put a ceiling on his ability to initiate offense, since teams could just sag off him or go under on ball screens, and it also hurt him as an off-ball spacer. If you haven't caught on, we are painting the picture of an elite perimeter defender with rim protection chops and the ability to provide offense in a secondary or tertiary role. This is not too dissimilar to the modern day player archetype that guys like Aaron Gordon, Asar Thompson, and Toumani Camara now fit into. I mentioned Kirilenko and Marion earlier, but what is really the difference between them and Wallace? All of them were shaky shooters with elite athletic tools and defensive footprints. One could even argue that Wallace was better at generating his own offense than those two, thanks to his basket pressure. This is seen by just simply looking at the percentage of his shots that were unassisted compared to Kirilenko and Marion. The real difference is that they got to play on great teams that made deep playoff runs, while Wallace was straddled on the mediocre Charlotte Bobcats. During his 6.5-year tenure in Charlotte, Wallace never played with another All-Star, and the Hornets never placed better than 24th in offensive rating. Meanwhile, Kirilenko and Marion played with Deron Williams and Steve Nash, two of the best offensive players of their generation. Heck, forget an all-star, Wallace never played with a point guard who finished higher than 19th among point guards in offensive estimated plus-minus. Imagine if he was able to slot in as an on-ball, off-ball slasher next to a strong offensive number one. From there, all you need is a good primary paint-protecting center, and you'd have a backbone of a team that could truly compete on both sides of the ball. Today, every team is looking for portable two-way wings, just like Wallace, which makes it a tragedy that no one ever talks about it. I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this channel, Stathead. So many times during my research process, I turned to Stathead to help me contextualize box score stats through a historical lens in just a few minutes. And if you want a 20% discount to a 1-year subscription, use my discount code, ISAHOOPS20. That's ISAHOOPS20. Anyway, what do you think about Gerald Wallace? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff just like this. As always, I'll see you guys next time.